Welcome back to the Beef and Barnzy Show, and we're coming at you with only 8 days to go until the actual PBA League Draft with PBA League Mock Draft 3.0. And first of all, I bring to you the FloBowling and Extra Frame personality, multi-time titleist, Weber Cup winner, unfortunately, and Team England player, the brains and the personality of this outfit, Beef Stew.
I guess that makes you the looks, Chris.
I'm not sure I fall under either one of those things. I don't know what I actually bring to this. So that makes me Barnzy. And
you bring a Hall of Fame resume, Chris.
Oh, yeah. Well, that just means you're old. That's all that actually means. So
in 10 years, I'll be old, but I won't have a Hall of Fame resume, it doesn't seem. So I don't think you should sell yourself too short. We've got an interesting panel today, haven't we, Chris?
Well, we do have a large number of experts today, and we have expanded and gone a different direction this time. And I guess first we'll start with, let's see, he's been the producer of Extra Frame and now FloBowling since 2014. He is the head of 10 on the Deck Productions. He has a collection of the shortest ties I've ever seen and an encyclopedic knowledge in the history of bowling. The one, the only, affectionately known as $2 Phil Brylow.
Good afternoon, everybody. Glad to be here. Thanks for asking me, guys. And did my homework for this draft. Everybody better watch out. I'm going to go stat happy. I'm going to go with the numbers on this one, not the hearts. So could be an interesting few picks out of me for the two teams I'm handling today.
And what do you have going on? What shows and different things? Obviously, you're affected pretty substantially by this.
Yeah, we've done some with 10 on the Deck Productions. You can find that on YouTube. We used to do TV shows in the Milwaukee area on Spectrum Sports, Time Warner Cable Sports, before they lost their sports channel and decided to make it an all-news outfit. So now we do some live streams on occasion. We've had some PBA players on the show. AJ Johnson, I can actually prove that he's won on TV. He did that quite a few years back when he was a college player on one of our shows. So, check it out if you're looking for some bowling, some great youth players from across the Midwest. And even sometimes we get a sneaky guy like Chris Prather on there, 10 on the Deck Productions on YouTube.
All right. Well, thank you, Phil. And I guess next up on our expert panel, he's a graduate of UCF. He's covered bowling for almost 20 years now, including 13 years as public relations and social media manager at USBC, the senior editor of FloBowling, and the guy I'm most likely to get vacation advice from, Lucas Wiseman.
It's actually USF. That was a tremendous insult. I'm guessing it was done intentionally. And also, when you said it's a large panel, I'm not sure how to take that.
Well, my board does address it slightly.
I want the Krispy Kreme today. Come on.
And Lucas, tell us, obviously, you're everywhere and have been everywhere among bowling for a long time, but tell us what you got going on there.
And certainly not afraid of the shameless plug, as you can see right here behind me. PBA League Draft is going to be the official league draft. None of this, mock stuff is going to be coming up on May 17th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, only on FloBowling.
That's right, the real deal. Well, and next up, joining our esteemed panel, he's currently the IT recovery manager for Pepsi. He's owned and published the Bowling News for 12 years now. When he was on tour, he didn't lack any stones. He regularly spent practice session bowling and betting for strikes with 1992 PBA Player of the Year Dave Ferraro. Since then, he's the guy most likely to gamble and win Lonnie Wallachek's last $20 and then be kind enough to offer him and extend him credit. He's recently started the Out of Range podcast. A longtime friend of mine, Tony Franklin.
All right. Thanks, Chris. I like the intro. I didn't even notice the Fitness Friday on there, so I will also take moderate offense to the size reference. Thank you very much.
Well, I think you weigh less than me now, so it's probably as much at myself as it is as anybody.
You know, with the haircut, I haven't had one in forever. I think we could probably bring the mullet back.
We are
I was thinking about it.
weeks away from being able to,
That's right.
to pull it off. What you did start this Out of the Range podcast recently. Tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. Out of Range podcast, available on any good platform where you can find a good podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google Chrome. We like to have lots of fun on there, talk bowling on occasion. Sometimes bowling isn't the most interesting thing. This week's episode, we've got Daniel Farish on with USBC, and we talk about really the only interesting thing going on in the world right now. That's right, The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary. Great stuff. We talk about, if someone was going to have a documentary like that on a bowler, who would it be? And I thought this was interesting. Derek Hartnell mentioned that maybe we should do one on Stu. And I said, well, I kind of got to be a relevant bowler to, I think, get a documentary like that. Not just a great mouthpiece, which you are a great mouthpiece, Stu, but you got to mix in some titles on occasion, I think, to make it interesting. My thoughts anyway.
Seems fair.
Yeah.
So, and then our last guest, Big Mike from Sweep the Rack, whose qualifications for being on this panel include being Bill O'Neill's best friend, once had a shout out on a national TV broadcast. His broadcast partner once beat me in a regional despite leaving the 6'10" 7 times. And he claims to have a prettier physical game than I do. The delusional Big Mike, everyone. What's going on, Mike?
The Rack, we're in the building. I'm here repping for me and my boy Rob. But listen, how cool is it that I have done the job of talking my way into even being invited on a show like this? So,
yeah. Do you want to just give us a little bit of a rundown of the Sweep the Rack podcast, where people can find it, how often it's coming out?
Yeah, basically, you can find us anywhere you want to listen to podcasts. We have about a year and a half's worth of episodes out there. We're currently transitioning over to the video side. We've been trying to do that for the last few weeks, so we also have some stuff up on YouTube for people to check out. But yeah, we're definitely a little bit off the beaten path of what you might find in your regular bowling content. Not your typical bowling podcast, I would say. So if you're looking for something a little bit different, come check us out, me and my boy Rob. And yeah, really, our highest qualification is probably that we're both good friends with Bill O'Neill. So shout to Bill. And like I said, we've done a hell of a job talking our way to get to this point. So, but I'm here today to actually prove that I can roll with you guys in terms of the bowling knowledge as well. So I think when this is all over, people will see that pretty clearly.
Okay, that was a pretty good rundown. Let's put Phil on the clock with the first pick.
The first one, we'll go over the draft order.
Oh, I apologize.
It did get announced this week, and so we did have a tough decision with Phil being from Milwaukee and Lucas being the longest tenured employee in Milwaukee on our panel. We opted for Phil to be the Las Vegas High Rollers, and they were deemed to be the first pick. Lucas will be the second pick with the Bruce City Ballers. Stu will go third with the Philadelphia Hitmen. Tony Franklin has the difficult task of the Brooklyn Styles. Big Mike with Motown Muscle. Lucas with Silver Lake Atom Splitters. Phil with New York City Kingpins. Tony has the easiest job also with the Dallas Strikers. And Big Mike with LAX. And then I will draft for the defending champion Portland Lumberjacks. So with that, first up on the clock, drafting in the first position, as you can see, Las Vegas and Bruce City, they're our expansion team, so they will have to draft from scratch. They'll get the first 3 picks. And we are going to draft this gentleman as if all international players will be available to travel there and will be able to show up. So do not take that into your calculations as if somebody might not be able to be there. But with that, we will put up $1 or $2, Phil.
Hey, I was taking a look at maybe pulling a trade off with that number 1 pick. I actually put in a note to one of the PBA League managers. Didn't hear back from him, so it could have been an interesting start to the draft. So I'm gonna hold on to my pick. Looking at a guy who's had a couple of up and down years. Really, he was part of the league in 17 and 18 with Motown. He had a really bad 2019, but he's bounced back great. After the win at the U.S. Open in 2019, his average finishing position this year in 2020, he's averaging a 19th place finish. He's only behind Jason Belmonte. Belmo's averaging a 13th place finish. I got to go with this guy to kick off my team. It's going to be Frankie Lavoie for Las Vegas.
First up on the board.
Yeah,
Francois Lavoie.
Just to give Lucas just one second to think about his picks. I think that this guy, Leonard's coming in off the top rope here, Chris. Thinking Tommy Jones to do a documentary about a bowler, they should have at least 20 PBA titles.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Who knew Tommy knew how to get a ghost account or shadow account?
Tommy's burner account.
Yeah.
I guess I should put that in then, shouldn't I?
Well,
rather than just sit here looking pretty.
Yeah. Well, I sure am not looking pretty, so yeah, get me out of there.
So you are going with
Lavoie. And now next up on the clock, picking second for the Brew City Ballers. This will be Marshall Holman's expansion team. And as a reminder to those of you at home, there is a board of advice that Sue created for everyone.
Right at you, Flanagan.
Well, I can tell you that I will not be picking a left-hander with my first two picks, or third, fourth, fifth picks. With the second pick, the Brew City Ballers are going to take Sean Rash.
Well, and a surprise, too.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Not that many.
All right, I get another one here. How exciting!
Yeah.
Back to back. So there's a lot of different ways I could go with this pick, but I think that it is really difficult to look too far down the list when a guy who has done pretty well at Bayside in the past has a really good history there, and I think. His game may match up okay with Sean Rash, and I'm going to go with Dick Allen.
With the third pick of the draft.
Solid.
I think that's, as a former teammate, and he was an MVP with us there, I think Richie is a very solid pick. For sure. And that will put on the clock. No, I'm sorry. I have that wrong. Las Vegas will be on the clock next.
What are you thinking, Phil?
Well, taking a look here at guys that have done a lot of striking at Bayside Bowl in the last 5 years. One guy really comes to mind. He's been with a couple of teams. He was with Dallas and when they won in 16. He strikes at a 75% clip when he's in league play. And his only problem is that he occasionally leaves a missed makeable. But striking's key, and he's proven he can carry a lot before. I'm going to go with B.J. Moore.
Well, that is talk.
Yeah, B.J.'s had a pretty good year this year, too. Average finishing place is about 34th, which isn't exactly middle of the pack on the tour in 2020, and he had a really good 2019 as well.
I don't know. What do you think? What do you think, Stu?
I think that BJ Moore is a very good bowler. I'm not sure that's the direction I would have gone when I had Frankie on the team. With the it'll be an interesting mix for sure. BJ is pretty versatile in the things he can do. The only thing I'd be worried about a little bit is if the team decided to go straight, BJ has a propensity for throwing urethane, and that might not make it so easy for Frankie to get the corner pins out. My wife coming in with some fashion tips there, Phil.
I had a couple of different ones I was going to go with. I left the salmon one in the closet, unfortunately, so figured I'd pull out when I hadn't made an appearance on FloBowling in a while.
So you're still on the clock here, Phil?
Yeah, let's go with basically the guys that had the best fill percentage the last 5 years at Bayside Bowl. Throwing some clutch strikes when they've needed it, when he was with Pittsburgh and then Portland. Best fill percentage of anybody with at least 24 frames bowled in PBA League play at 97.8%, and that's Ryan Simonelli.
I believe that you're just making stats up now, Phil, but I'm all good with it.
You can ask my wife. I huddled in my office here for 3 straight days going through all the PBA League shows since 2015.
The only thing I would say to you is that Dick Allen missed a 10-pin last season for us after we drafted him to be our closer.
Right. He actually missed 2 for you guys, but that's, not that I was paying attention.
But he said that was his first open at Bayside Bowl in the PBA League. Me and Belmo looked at each other and kind of smirked and said bullshit, but that's what
give me a minute. I'll go back and find when he missed that first one there, but he missed one before that.
Okay. So, Lucas, over to you.
Yeah, I've got to admit I'm a little disappointed because I've got Rash and Allen already, and I was hoping to continue my trend of taking guys who are opinionated and potentially controversial and take Simonelli, but can you imagine that dynamic? So it's just going to be a dream for now. So I'm going to go to the complete other end of the spectrum, and I'm going to take a guy who, bless his heart, is not controversial at all. And that is AJ Johnson.
Okay. AJ on this show.
AAJJ.
So why doesn't AJ have 5 titles right now? Somebody answer that for me.
He has 5 initials. Does that count?
Almost.
5 titles is pretty difficult to get to when you don't have one.
All right. Well, then can you give me one? All right, one. You could pick up one anywhere, literally all over the world. Why doesn't he have some titles?
Timing. I mean, he would have probably had a pretty good chance of winning the Lucy if they didn't have the pair from hell the last game.
Yeah.
But I guess Chris Prater and his partner could have said the same thing as they were bowling against them. He's had a few people have some pretty big games against him as well on TV. So, yeah, I mean,
his best opportunity is bowling Christian Ascona in the final of the one, but that was still Christian bowled a good game.
Yeah, and then his first opportunity is often the easiest one because you have no fear of failure really the first time. He just had the fear of Belmo when he bowled his first title match. I often ask him if his first shot slowed down yet. He actually needed to go in and take the 3-pin out of the rack after his first shot.
Sometimes being the strongest guy in the building isn't always a bonus.
So,
all right. Well, that's good. There's nobody I'd rather watch bowl. I want to see him start getting some titles.
Then he might be able to make the show. Our show, that is.
Maybe.
So I'm actually watching the list go through here because I'm trying to figure out who I'm going to pick. I think that I am going, because I've got Dom's team. I think I'm going to take the guy who was player of the year, then had a year that he wanted to forget and is just starting to build back up again. I'm going to take Chris's friend Eileen, Andrew Anderson. That's who I'm going to go with. So I'm actually just going to put him in as Anderson because AAJJ is pretty universal. Eileen is not so mainstream. So
we're working on it.
Well, I'm doing a very crappy job here of producing.
Ain't easy, is it, Stu? Huh?
There we go. No, and Phil, you've definitely shown me over the years how difficult it can be.
Yes, very true. You
Uh,
haven't crashed the whole one yet, so that's good.
no, I haven't had to go, oh.
Yeah.
And luckily for me, nobody's backed a truck into my fiber line coming in either. That's been a bit of a problem one time as well.
No one stole your truck in Albuquerque either.
No, they stole some of my stuff when you lost it. But, you know. Tony, Brooklyn Styles.
All right. So how did I end up with Brooklyn Styles? I mean, why didn't Big Mike get them? I feel like he's got more knowledge of the area. I mean, Brooklyn Rob's on his team, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it came down to the fact that we were giving you the easiest assignment, which was Dallas.
Okay.
So therefore, to balance it out, you got the more challenging assignment.
Makes sense.
The one assignment where no matter who you pick, it can't be wrong. Because
whoever I pick's better than the other three combined?
No, not at all. It's just the three that they have got as such a strange mix that whatever you would put in, it's no different.
All right. Well, hey, I've got the olds. I got Walter Ray. I've got Brad Angelo and Rhino. So I don't know how old Rhino is, but, he's probably not 50 like the other guys, but he looks it. So we got to get him old. We got to get some youngs at the position. So I got several good youngs I could choose from. The two that pop up to me that I'm really thinking about, Brad Miller. He's a fun guy, right? He can handle those dudes and be a real, breath of fresh air, literally. And then Nick Pate, again, another fantastic talent. A little, he'd probably be a little bit on the grumpier side if you put him with the olds. So I'm going to give it to my main man from Raytown, Missouri, Brad Miller. Welcome to the show.
I like it.
The self-confessed 11th best bowler in the house.
Yeah, he's
the ultimate. How can I put this? Pussy maneuver, shall we go with? That Brad went with. If you check out the Brad and Kyle blog, it'll all become explained. But they had their show, and they got to pick their 11 guys in the house in order. And Brad put himself 11th, which was fairly delusional. And Kyle went one step further and put himself in front of Prather, which was equally delusional. So, Big Mike, you are on the clock.
All right, so a couple comments. Phil, you are the Dave Gettleman of this draft right now, okay? You spent 3 straight days going over stats, and then you pass on Sean Rash, son. Are you crazy? You must have been smoking some serious shit in that room over 3 days.
Sean can't strike on the show. He's only struck half the time he's thrown a ball on the show. All the guys I picked have higher strike percentages. I'm going by that. I told you I'm going by the stats.
It's Sean Rash. Shout to Lucas with the pick of Ryan Simonelli, because that was going to be my first pick for the Motown Muscle here already with EJ Tackett, Simonson, and Blanchard. If I should rep anybody, let me be clear. I know my partner Rob is from Brooklyn, but if I'm repping anybody, it's Philly. Let's be clear, okay? Because that's where I'm from. So that would have been way more fitting. But for my first pick here, I'm going to go with a guy that I identified as if this person was there at the time that I was going to pick, and thankfully, because of Phil's piss poor decisions, he is there. I was going to take him. Young guy. I like his game. I like his attitude. I think he'll fit in well with this team. Nick Pate will be the selection for the Motown Muscle here.
Big Mike, just a real quick question. Does Nick Pate have a prettier physical game than you?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. No.
Okay.
Not.
All right. Just checking.
He repeats it better, but
Nick is definitely a guy who, once he starts striking, doesn't tend to stop. He's thrown a lot of 300 games, especially in Oklahoma. He likes shooting 300 in Oklahoma. Lucas, you are up with the Atom Splitters. Just remember that Barnes is on the show wearing his jersey. So he'll probably be fairly critical of your choice if he doesn't like it.
He's going to be critical no matter what because that's Chris Barnes.
Only to those that deserve it.
That's true. So we've got Barnes, Svensson, and Doherty on this team. Not the group that I would choose to bowl with, mainly because of Barnes. But
It is reciprocal.
I think that I'm gonna load you up with lefties, Chris, and I'm gonna give you Packy Hanrahan.
All right. Stretch.
Packy did go an average of 4th in the last 2 mock drafts that you guys did. Of course, one of those doesn't count because of Mike Flanagan.
Yeah. It was, to quote Frankie, wildly overdrafted.
I don't know. Packy's got an average finish of 29th on tour this year. He's having a pretty solid 2020. I wouldn't argue
lefty?
too much right there.
Phil?
What was that?
I said, isn't every lefty having a good year on tour?
No, I took Simonelli. He's only averaging 37th place finish. There's quite a few on this list that are not having good years. Packy's leading the lefties.
Packy is leading the lefties. See, Phil, I'm going to get you on the screen for this.
Okay.
You ever think that if your stats show that Packy's leading the lefties, that your stats probably not worth a shit?
Yes, I mean, you can. I mean, obviously, past performance doesn't indicate future performance, but
no. But what I'm saying is when the lefties won 2 titles this year, and your stats and the ones that you're using talk about average finish.
But that's from the guys that are eligible for the draft, not guys that are retained by their teams. Obviously, if you go with Butters,
okay.
If you go with Butters, yeah, I'm going with the guys that are draft eligible here. I mean, Stu, we can talk about your 45th place average finish in 2020, but we'll leave it on the side. Don't worry.
Phil, it's fine.
I know.
It's fine. The thing is, though, Phil, last time I checked, average finish doesn't pay for anything. So if you finish 25th or you finish 65th, it tends to be fairly irrelevant.
Depending on the payout in the event, absolutely. But I'm looking at the consistency factor, especially for the guys that haven't been under the PBA League lights.
Yeah, consistency factor. So not PBA, not TV shots. Okay, Phil.
Right.
Phil, we welcome you to the show. It's a very friendly environment that we create here.
It's no different than I got Stu with me on FloBowling. Stu's not afraid to call me out on stuff, and I'll defend myself the best I can.
Yeah,
so,
that's why.
This is unusual with Stu in the booth. This is far from unusual.
That's why we've got you on, Phil.
Right.
You're up with the New York City Kingpins. Weber, Kent, and Sherman so far.
So with the Kingpins, got a guy that really is going to fit in, especially with, I think, the stylings of Marshall Kent. He had a pretty okay year with the Kingpins last year. We're going to bring him back on with Darren Tang.
Nice pick, Phil. Nice pick.
Once again, Tang solid 2020 as well. And he filled all his frames last year for the Kingpins when he was on. Struck 6 to 8 times when he was had the opportunity ball in hand. And fit in really well chemistry-wise. So I'm glad that Darren Tang was still sitting there.
I'm actually surprised that he lasted that long, to be honest.
Yeah.
He was one of them I considered picking instead of Andrew Anderson. So, Tony, Dallas Strikers, Duke, Jones, O'Neill.
Man, best of luck with this one.
All right, so you guys said this was the easiest one. So whoever I pick, they're going to bowl second or third, regardless. If they throw 500 strikes in a row, they're bowling second or third. Is that correct?
No, certainly not. Not with Norm. Bill tends to be welded with Norm in the second and third spots.
Okay.
Norm is completely all over the map with the way he does it. Everybody looks at him like he's crazy. Comes up smelling of roses pretty much every. The only time it didn't work was one year he put Maldonado anchor, which seemed a little unfair when they had 3 Hall of Famers on the team. Put a guy who'd never bowled on TV in the anchor spot. but that's what he went with.
All right. So what other good advice do you have for me here? What is Norm like? I mean, I want to try and pick him something good. Does he want someone else on the team that shims it like he does? Or does he want him 15 left of him?
Anybody who's ever bowled on the pair next to him in a regional tends to work out pretty well. That's where BJ Moore came from.
Okay.
Kyle
I
Shaw.
think bowled in the Southern region for a little while. I think that's how that originally started. Gosh.
But you've got to understand that what Chris refers to as a regional is anything other than the US Open.
Not exactly.
All right. Well, this really is tougher than you think. I mean, heck, all these great players, but I'm afraid every time I look at the list and I think, man, if they 2-8-10 one time, Norm's going to kick him off the team and bowl both frames. So that's what I'm nervous of.
Trey's got some advice. I'm assuming he's talking about you. Wow, you have 4 knowledgeable people choosing today and a house hack from Plano Super Bowl.
I don't know any Trey Autry, but I am a house hack from PSB. That is very true. Thank you, Trey, whoever you are. And your lame logo. All right. So I think the best, easiest choice here would be just to give him Thomas Larson. He'll never open. Okay. And occasionally he'll shake him down, get a strike, mix in a couple of those, but he'll never open. That's what Norm needs. He's got 3 baggers built in with everybody else. Thomas Larson.
Okay. Definitely a non-chalk pick there.
Is there chalk left?
I mean,
Best available would have been AJ Chapman.
Sure, but I'm afraid as soon as AJ 2-8-10s, Norm's going to lose it. He's going to absolutely lose it.
Maybe.
And AJ will 2-8-10 somewhere in there. He may have 17 in a row, but he will 2-8-10 one time.
Big Mike, LAX. You're going to be nice to us here.
Yeah. In looking at the list, when I went through the list to do my research, one thing that stuck out to me is that there are a limited number of players with titles on this list. And if you go to the number of players with multiple titles on this list, I believe there are only 3 or 4 players on this entire list with multiple titles. So with that said, for the 13th pick for the LAX, being that you already have a great, strong starting lineup with Belmo, Buttriff, and our host here, Stu, despite his poor form, I'm going to go with Jason Sterner. Jason Sterner is our pick here. One of the few guys with multiple titles. And honestly, from what I see, one of the harder workers in the game, one of the harder practicers in the game. I think he'll fit in well as a role player on that team. And that's going to be my pick there, Jason Sterner.
For the record, there are 13 players with multiple titles available in this draft.
Oh, okay. If you're counting anything as a title. So let me be clear. When I say that, I mean titles won on U.S. soil in full field events, Lucas. I'm not counting.
You're just appeasing Chris Barnes because he still thinks his Motel 6 thing should be titles.
Well,
compared to what counts now,
if we're being honest about it here, not all titles are equal. Okay, so I'll take Jason Sterner's title over some of the other titles that people might have on this. I'll stand by.
Okay, yeah, I mean, not to be that guy, but I mean the Lucy Bonneau mixed doubles is sure up there with the U.S. Open.
I didn't count that one, Stu. That's not the one I referred to. I wasn't even referring to that one. I said 2 individual titles. He has a 3rd title, which is the doubles, but I didn't even get into it. But doesn't that show that he's a good team player as well? I mean, that's one of my thoughts.
I'm happy with the pick. I mean, I was surprised that you actually that you actually went that way, being as you actually left Dom off the team of the decade. So I was a little shocked by that. But
Well, I told you off the air that if you would have allowed me, I would have pulled a stunt and tried to trade Belmo here And we talked about that on a previous podcast on Sweep the Rack. But yeah, you told me no stunts, no Mike Flanagan nonsense. So I'm playing it straight.
So
No
we've had a couple of messages in the chat. Frankie Lapointe is this is the banter that we were all looking for. So I'm glad that we appeased you there, Frankie. And AJ Johnson, yeah, I mean, Chris gives Tommy credit for winning the Samho Cup. I'm going to stop you right there because Chris would never give Tommy credit for almost anything except winning the doubles because he would have done it with Chris. And then he says, as one of his titles, but not someone else. No. I mean, we give Tim Mack just as much credit for winning the Samho as we give you, AJ.
Ouch.
And how much credit is that?
Well, they don't give Timmy a title. So
Zero.
why does AJ get one?
0. Yeah, we're just waiting for somebody to say 0 on that. That's fine.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I didn't get credit for my Samo Cup. Actually, Tommy didn't get it for either. So, as usual, AJ's argument is not thought out. So,
Yeah.
AJ's speak when spoken to, and until then, just keep watching the show.
at least he's taking it in good spirits.
He does.
Before he would have probably reported us to our internet providers.
Poor AJ.
Oh, poor guy. I guess I'm up on the clock next, and I have back-to-back picks here.
Another very challenging team for you to pick.
Well, yes, but I'm trying to play into they didn't win, so they want more of their guys back as possible. And the two guys that were on the team before were anyone?
Mitch Hoope and Ryan Simonelli.
One of those is off the board, obviously, but I do think that makes sense to rebuild as much of that as possible. And so even without his questionable purple hammer, I'm going to add Mitch Hoope.
I actually think he's getting that back.
You do? Huh?
Yes, from the way I read the press release, those balls that were illegal are now going to be legal again. So
Okay.
That's the way I read the press release as well.
All right. Well, in any case, it actually doesn't matter. I think Mitch has improved year over year. I think he just keeps getting better and better, and having some experience there in that venue and winning. There's no reason to break up that chemistry and what that's worth. So.
While you're still thinking, Chris, I think this provides us with a good segue to quickly talk about our show on Sunday. My wife and Chris's wife are taking over the Beef and Barnzy show for Mother's Day.
Thank God.
And they have Kimberly Pressler coming on as a guest.
Thank God.
And Tina just wrote, bearing in mind it's a Mother's Day special, I almost feel bad enough for AJ to have him on as a guest on Sunday.
If they're only having on females, it somewhat makes sense.
Ooh.
Yeah, that show is going to be on at noon Central on Sunday.
AJ. Love you, man. Let's see. So with Malat, Troop, Prather, Hoope, there's some guys there. I do like, in the spirit of guys that can curve it. I'm really in between AJ Chapman and Osku. And Osku has been with this group before and with Timmy before. And so I'm going to go with Osku Palermo. To fill out the Lumberjacks.
Benoit says the next bump might not be so soft. I think he was referring to AJ saying you're terrible at talking crap.
Yeah. Well, keep working on your typing game.
I would have had to have felt the first one. Oh, I thought you felt the shoulder check. I'm not going to put it up, but people might want to look at Tommy's burner account in the comments.
Uh-oh.
Oh boy.
So LAX, Big Mike, you're up. What we thinking, big dog?
What's his burner name account? Is it at Earl Thomas? Is that
No? It's Leonard. That's there. We were joking because he was the one saying that it should only be 20 titles and above for a documentary. Jabbing Chris a little.
So for the 16th pick here for the LAX again, Belmo, Buttriff, Stu, and Jason Sterner here. It's tough for me to pass up AJ Chapman. I was looking Chris Vi. I thought would be a really good pick here for this team, particularly. I'd like to see him in a lineup with Belmo, but AJ Chapman is too high of a ranked player on this list for me to pass him up. So I'm going to take AJ Chapman there to round up the lineup.
I think that could work quite well for us. AJ and my and myself are pretty recent Texas residents, and I've been breaking AJ in a little bit, ball busting, and he's definitely maturing a little bit to understand to like not always have to bite every time. So being in a team with both me and Belmo at times can be a little difficult for some people who are a little thin-skinned. So yeah. Hey guys, been on calls. What does the chalkboard mean? I think you know, Flanagan. I really think you know. Tony, you are up with the Dallas Strikers.
All right. So same piece with these guys, right? I feel like I just got to keep kind of the middle of the road. Don't get in too much trouble players. They don't need any home runs. So here's something I would like to hear from you, Stu and Chris on. There's a player left on here that I think is really amazing. He feels like he kind of sneaks up on tournaments. He's always up there, and he doesn't do anything super special if you just watch him. So tell me a little bit about Patrick Guedad. What kind of makes him so special? Because he's really had a lot of success.
It's certainly not bowling balls, put it that way, because he seems to change which brand he's on in a near annual basis. And he still is very competitive, whether he's been with almost every manufacturer. He's got a very end over end roll, and he's got a very high rev rate, so he's able to keep the ball on line pretty good. And because of his rev rate, he doesn't leave as many flat tens as maybe another guy with such an end over end roll. Would be my guess. What would you say, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, he's almost got that. Almost a little bit of small with that full roller thing going on, and when he starts striking, he strikes a ton. And good field player. He's been around for a while now. He's not just a kid, so he feels his way around the lane a lot better than he did 10 years ago. And quietly been one of the most improved players.
Yeah.
Is that who you're going with, Tony?
Yeah, let's go with Patrick Guedad.
Okay, Lucas, back round to you. Atom splitters. Barnes.
Don't the Kingpins get the pick here?
Yeah. You skip
Yes.
Yeah, let's go to Phil with.
All right, let's hang it back. We'll cut that. All right, Phil, you've got Weber, Kent, Sherman, and Tang. Team lookout.
Yeah, and looking at one of the most improved guys between 2019 and 2020, Team USA member numerous years, and you can't. I'm surprised he's gone this far. Chris Vi.
Wow. Well, I can tell you which team would win in an Ironman contest, even with Weber on the team.
For sure. That's a very solid pick, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, another useless stat. I mean, his average finish in 2019 for Vi was 58th place. It's 30th this year. So he's really put in a lot of work in 2020 and been bowling quite well.
Yeah, don't say useless stat on that, Phil. I mean, I think that's good stats. I don't care what Stu has to say about it. Keep dumping them out there. What does he know?
Well, your pick with Patrick Gerard. Patrick Gerard, I mean, 29th last year, average finish 31st this year. Pretty consistent year to year the last couple of seasons, and I like that pick for Dallas that you had in there as well.
Well, thank you. And I don't know why I was asking them for their opinion. I don't need the Turstud opinion. I need factual evidence of his skill level.
We're just moneyballing this right now. Let's give me the stats.
I know, because Barney's over there on two sides of his head. Ooh, do I really say what I want to say, or say that he has a very nice over back end roll and he can really strike a lot? That's great info. I appreciate that, Chris. That is good stuff.
If we want to give a stat about the Dallas Strikers, you talk about the guy that's got the second worst strike percentage in the league history. In the last 5 seasons, that has at least 40 attempts. Tommy Jones, the only guy that's behind him is Rhino Page. So Tommy Jones has only struck 53.1% of the time. Rhino Page 43.6. They have at least 40 frames bowled.
Hey,
Tommy only strikes in the 10th.
Do you have Chris's percentage there?
Barnes' percentage? Yeah, actually, I have everybody's. Okay. Stu, you're at 53.8%, 21 out of 39. Barnes, 68.8, 42 out of 61, and especially thanks to that effort in 2018, which was, in my opinion, the best performance in PBA League history.
Wow.
All right, Phil, up off your knees, mate.
Let's keep it professional in here. These guys.
Well, let's see. So the splitters are up. Myself, Svensson, Doherty, Hanrahan.
And only one player on the team is going to have 3 holes in their ball.
Yeah.
Well, guys, as tempted as I am to give Chris Barnes another left-hander, and by the way, how bad did Graham Faw and Michael Holloman feel after that last draft, after they were the only lefties not taken by Mike Flanagan? But I'm not going to take another lefty for you, Chris. I'm looking at a guy with a little more experience. So best available, we've got Jake Peters, Anthony Lavery-Spar, Zach Wilkins. But there's a guy, 4th best available right now, who's got some more experience, who I think would be a great fit on this team and match up well with the right-handers, maybe. And that is the abuelo, Andres Gomez.
Let's go, Maz.
I think that's a good pick.
That is the first time Chris Barnes has ever said anything nice to me. Thank you.
It wasn't really, yeah, I mean.
I'll take it.
Hey, Phil.
Yes, sir.
With the work that you put in for these stats, it seems like there's a thirst for them. Maybe you should put them up on your Facebook or something, because Ed is here. Is asking, where can we find these stats?
I'll do that tonight. I'll get them. I'll put them up on my Facebook, and there's a lot of people that have a bit of interest. So yeah, I'll get them up. I'll get them hard copied and another Excel spreadsheet and get it all up for everybody.
Yeah, if you put a link to your page or whatever in the chat when you're done, when you post up, then people can just click on it.
I will do that.
There you go, Ed. We are men of the people, so we give them what they want.
Hey, speaking of stats, going back and looking at when Gomez was part of the LAX in 15 and 16, he really didn't have a lot of success out there. Strike rate of less than 40%, and a couple open frames out there as well. So it might not be that happy of a reunion if Gomez was back with the LAX.
One quick thing that I will note there in Andres' defense, that when he was bowling, we were bowling on the old side of the building. We're now going back over to the new side of the building.
Right.
And maybe Andres' slower speed didn't match up so good to the older side. So dropping a knowledge bomb there for you, Tony.
Hold on.
Thank you. That's good.
Motown Muscle, Big Mike. Talk us through your thought process here. Tackett, Simons, and Blanchard and Pate. What we thinking?
So, I should be looking at Anthony Lavery Spar here, maybe DJ Archer, but truthfully, I can't pick either guy who throws it, in such a way that is nowhere near as pretty as I throw it. So can't pick those guys. We're missing a lefty here, right? We're missing a lefty in this lineup. So if the left is looking good, we're going to be hurting. So I am going to pick the remaining lefty in the field here that I have on my list that I think if they're good can really strike a lot and keep up at that pace. PBA Rookie of the Year and Masters finalist Michael Holloman will be our pick here.
Oh, nice.
I might be wrong, but I feel like Michael Holloman was on that team last year.
I believe he was as well, yes.
There we go. Which, considering that Dell is the self-proclaimed leader of the IHL, it's pretty impressive to be able to make the cut. Tony might be able to talk a little bit more over Dell's, club and the presidency.
Yeah, I mean, he's not. He's going to fight through that pick. I think he's just struggling more with the fact that he's got the Philly guy picking for him. That's the part that's really hurting his heart deep down. So he's having to fight through that badly.
Jim Callahan coming in with Andres won two matches in the playoffs last year on the old side. He did, but he wasn't bowling on the house shot like we're going to be bowling on for the PBA League.
Way to have that solid comeback for that, Stu, to offset your stat. Callahan, come over the top of him, Jim. Come over the top of him with one more.
Tony.
All right.
Styles. Walter Ray, Rhino Page, Brad Angelo, Brad Miller.
All right. So we gave him Brad Miller. You're welcome, Brad. You'll be the fun life of the party on that very joyous team. Now we need to give him someone who can just shred strikes left and right. If it's truly the house shot, then this is your guy. He's my man from the Dallas-Fort Worth ALS, Anthony Lavery Spar. Let's chalk it up and give them a whole bunch of strikes, ALS.
Anthony was on our team, the LAX last year, made it to the final in his debut season. After his first couple of shots where he kept missing left, me and Belmo took him to one side and told him that we were going to punch him in the throat if he went through the nose for a third time. We said, if you miss the head pin completely, we don't care. Just don't go through the nose. Your rev rate is through the roof. So he let it fly. And when he let go of it, Belmo was like, oh, don't be zero. Well, it flew back and the 10 pin was taken care of by the head pin. So he once he realized that he could just let it fly, he had a really good initial campaign. So I like the pick.
All right.
That's actually who I was going to pick for the Philly Hitmen. So now I've got to think a little bit. So
By the way, I think that in this draft, it's going to be a lot less interesting who the top 5 or 6 picks are, and a lot more interesting who the last 5 or 6 picks are, because it gets pretty tough when you get down this far on the sheet to determine who you're going to pick.
I actually thought you were just going to say that the PBA League Draft was going to be a lot less interesting than this one.
There'll be a lot less shade thrown, I have a feeling.
Yeah. So to give me more time to think about this pick that I'm probably going to mess up, what can we expect from the coverage that you've got coming up on Flow with the PBA League?
Yeah, so I think it's going to be pretty exciting. We've got a team of 12 people back in Austin at Flow Sports headquarters who are going to be working on this thing, and we're planning on having a majority of, if not all of the players dialed in via Zoom call so we can get reactions and interviews from whenever they're drafted, and of course all the team managers as well. We'll have a pre-show, 15-20 minute pre-show to talk about things, break it down beforehand, and it should overall be a good time. I think the production value should be pretty good from what I've seen. There's a lot of work going into making it look really professional, which will be a great step up from the Beef and Barnzy show. But you can watch it on Sunday, May 17th, 7 p.m. Eastern on FloBowling.
So you're having a guest host too, or
Tom Clark. will be the man, and I will also be there, but in a diminished capacity.
Sounds like a good start.
Do you have is Bill O'Neill going to be coming on and offering his insights this year, or is that a thing of the past now?
That's the plan, is to have Bill O'Neill on to chat a bit. As you know, 2 years ago, Bill O'Neill said that Andrew Anderson would be picked with every pick, and Andrew Anderson did not get picked at all. So his credentials are a little questionable in that regard, but I like Bill. He's nice to me, and that's why he's going to be on.
Mel Kiper's had a job for 35 years, and he hasn't gotten the first 3 picks right ever. So I think Bill's in perfect line. Right, I've wasted enough time. I think that I am going to go. I'm going to go a little bit away from chalk, and I'm going to go a little bit away from us making the same choice for this pick. 3 drafts running. So I am going to take the leprechaun. I'm going to take Christopher Sloan for this team. I think Chris has a good attitude for this type of environment. He made, I think it was his lone TV show at the Masters last year, and he performed extremely well. He screamed, "Bayside, I'm coming," and then wasn't draft eligible, which I thought was pretty awesome. But that's who I'm going with. I'm going with the person Chris fondly refers to as Lucky Charms.
And out of the top 40 guys finishing position in 2020 this year, the guys that are eligible, Stu, Chris Sloan's 39th. The only guy behind him is Nick Krummel. So
that's
a good year.
fine. I don't really care about average finishing position performances on TV. So
I disagree, Phil. If I don't hear these stats from you for the rest of the PBA season, if we have one, then you're wasting our time. I want stats all the time, specifically when you invite Stu in. I want nothing but stat.
I love stats.
I've given enough
for everything.
You could have fooled me.
Friends, no, I just don't like average finishing position. I think it's an irrelevant stat.
Well, if we had more stats like we get from Lane Talk at some of the majors and that kind of thing, we could really get in depth with it. It was
100%
phenomenal.
Strike percentage, close frame percentage,
right?
Stats.
Yeah, absolutely.
The fact that the best player in the world, his average finishing position is 13th. Don't really care. So one good event doesn't equal out one bad event. That's what I don't like. Okay. So, Lucas, Brew City Ballers back on the clock.
Yeah, so I'm also looking at some stats here. And I'm also looking at average finishing position because I think that is entirely relevant. And especially in this regard, this player has an average mock draft finish of 19. And I'm going to take DJ Archer.
DJ Archer. You're going with the ABP. I like it. Frankie wants to know, do we have a spare percentage for Sloan?
No, I only have the percentages for the actual shots thrown on TV. I don't have anything for like the season. It'd be nice if we would have that Lane Talk, something of that nature, but no, since Chris has never appeared on a PBA League show before, I have nothing on fill percentage for Mr. Sloan. I do have it for DJ Archer. He's only struck 60% of the time on TV, 12 out of 20, and he has a habit of leaving open frames. He's only spared 5 of 8 times. So that could be DJ's kind of a feast or famine.
Interestingly, Phil, in your research, what did you think was the most important? Was it strike percentage or was it close frame percentage?
Finishing position.
It was fill percentage because there's a lot of times where it started with fill percentage and I look at the strike percentage. Especially the last couple of seasons, there's been a few matches that have been the one mark difference, the extra carry, that type of thing. So you want to make sure the guy's filling frames, not leaving a hole somebody has to bounce back of. And then most importantly after that is how many times does this guy strike when he's on the lanes? And
all right, Phil, help me out a little bit here. What was Chris's fill percentage?
Barnes fill percentage 90.4%.
And was I any closer to him on that one?
You were actually ahead of him, 94.7. But you shot at a lot of 10 pins. Yeah, you shot at a lot more 10 pins last year than anybody else. So in the finals. But yeah, there's the highest fill percentage out there is in the history at Bayside Bowl is, believe it or not, Ryan Simonelli at 97.8%. The guys that bowled at least 4 times.
Okay.
Yeah, you're in the top 10.
Sweet. With Belmo?
Yeah, really looking forward to your next pick.
Actually, Belmo only has less than 90% fill percentage on TV on the PBA League shows.
Man,
Yeah.
sounds awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Phil, you're back on the clock. We've managed to waste enough time here to stretch this show over an hour, so I'm proud of myself.
All right, looking at Vegas for their number 4 pick. Here's a guy who's had some decent success with league experience, and I think just from the lack of number of tournaments he bowls every year, sometimes he gets looked over. People look down the points list and they don't see how well he finishes. League experience with LAX for a few seasons actually. I'm going to go with Martin Larson.
Nice.
Martin, 95.5% of frames filled, and he strikes 57% of the time. Doesn't leave. He's only had 1 open frame in his entire time on the PBA League shows.
Nice. Very nice. I bowled with Martin quite a few times on the PBA League. I'm going to do a shameless plug here for our YouTube channel. I'm just putting it in the chat now. Soon, I will try and get a custom URL, but I don't have one right now, so I'm not going to read out what our channel ID is, but it is in the chat. So if you wanted to rush over there and watch some of the content of the B from Barnzy, or more importantly, give us a subscribe, we would appreciate that.
And back to me?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Two picks left. A few interesting names out there. Highest ranked, obviously, on the board: Jake Peters, Zach Wilkins, Cooley, Mikey Tang, Richie T. Smart. Martin is no longer available. Someone who's been overlooked the last couple times: Greg Ostrander and Ronnie Russell. Arturo Quintero.
Matt McNeil, sorry.
Yeah, a veteran Matt Sanders, who went deep in the playoff run with the Hitman a few years back.
So, yeah, looking at a guy that a lot of people overlook. He's only been on TV once, but it was in a team format back at World Series of Bowling 10 in USA versus the World. Very solid 2020 for this man, and I think he'd be a good fit with the manager, Amado Monticelli, and that's Arturo Quintero. Arturo averaged 32nd place finish. He had a pretty not great World Series, but solid, and he's been throwing it well. So I don't think we'll see the TTT shirt on TV anytime soon. But he's bowled in the team format before on TV and did relatively well.
Definitely, I definitely appreciate the knowledge drop there, Phil. Arturo doesn't always get the love he deserves.
Very true. He's been around a long time. Super good field player, and how that plays in Baker is sometimes questionable. But the fact that they're not super hard, I think that plays into it as well. I think he is a good fit with manager Hamletto as well.
We've just got a little bit of info in the chat that Lucas might want to consider or brush to one side completely. Jim Jordan is pointing out that Matt Ogle is a good fit with Sean Rash, being as they won the doubles last season.
I would agree. And this is a tough pick.
Do we know if Ogle's still on the IR? Because he had to withdraw from World Series with a wrist injury, if I remember correctly. He did not bowl in the World Series this year.
No, I have no idea. And I don't think he does either, if we're being honest, because he's being able to throw a ball right now. flip back over to Lucas.
So, yeah, this is a tough pick. I feel like Jake Peters and Zach Wilkins sort of overlooked a little bit in this draft. But I do feel like there's one player who should fit in well with this crew that I've put together: Rash, Allen, AJ, and DJ. And before we get there, Big Mike, how many times has Bill O'Neill blocked you on Twitter?
Twice.
Okay. There's another one coming soon, I'm sure. Just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, it's I'm primed for one. Actually, I'm primed for one. He hit me up the other day and had to warn me, so it's coming. It's okay. I have burner accounts too, so even when he blocks me, I'm still following what he's doing. It doesn't really matter.
And do you use those burner accounts on your Motorola Razr camera that you're using right now for this draft? Did somebody said in the chat?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that the technology was going to be good, so I went with the most reliable as opposed to the most new.
All right, I had to throw some shots at Big Mike. I couldn't go the whole time without it.
Good.
So with the last pick in the draft, are you guys doing a contest or anything this time?
No, not this time. No.
Cheap bastards. The last pick, I'm going to go with Ronnie Russell.
Ronnie Russell. There we go. Old R squared.
Ronnie will be happy that somebody finally thought of him.
You did a good job up until that point.
Thank you.
So there's our draft.
Bill, congrats. You finally made a good pick in round 5. Congratulations.
Like I said, I'm going with the stat. Trust me, I'm going to be tracking how many times these guys strike and stuff during the PBA League. When it happens, I'm going to track and see who's got the best record out of all these. You may not be able to put them together for score, obviously, except for fun, but it'll be interesting to see what guys come through or not.
So who do you think is most overlooked in this draft, guys?
Zach Wilkins.
And why?
I think he's been bowling. He had a couple strong showings this year. Just really a name that sticks out to me, from watching this year and seeing his results. And I would expect him to get picked up. I'm surprised that he did.
I'd go with Greg Young. I think Greg is 1 year away from being in the PBA League. I almost took him.
He certainly, since last summer, has turned a corner. The early results were suspect, but he did make several of the summer shows last year. He's made some runs this year too. I think that's that's closer to what his junior career looked like, where he was dominating at times, especially with team masters and those kind of things. But it's an adjustment going with moving up to the big boys where everybody's got rev rate.
Hey, Sam Cooley for me. I mean, his follow through makes me dizzy to watch, but he's a strike machine, especially since they're going to throw the somewhat shim out there for this event. He's a striking machine, so he would be my pick. Most overlooked.
What about you, Phil?
I went with Michael Tang. Michael's had a solid year. He's averaging about 30-50s, 20 spots on average, higher in a tournament than he was last year. Some of the small mental mistakes that really snowballed on him last year didn't seem to happen during qualifying in tournaments for Michael Tang this year. And I was actually kind of torn between Michael Tang and Quintero for that last pick for Vegas.
Hey, Phil, it looks like the feedback from your coat may have knocked out the monitor behind you.
Oh, beautiful. It's good to hear. Hold on one second. We'll just get that back on. At least it didn't go to sleep for too long.
Leonard's asking, what were the stats on Stan Cooley from his PBA League career?
He only struck 3 of 8 times in 2 seasons with the New York City Kingpins. 7 of 8 on the fill percentage, 87.5%. So that was both years back on the new side. So that's where he'd be bowling this year as well. So
he struck on 3 of 8 shots.
Right.
Right. I immediately regret my decision.
He was hitting the pocket. He left a bunch of weak 10s. He was having some ball reaction issue and such. And at least the 5 spare attempts he left, 3 of them were 10 pins. So it's not like he was, throwing the ball away or anything of that nature.
I mean, if I want flat tens, I'll just pick Barney, and because Barney never split, so it's all good.
So who was your next pick then, Tony?
No, I'm going to stick with Cooley. I'm
going to go with Jake Peters. Jake's obviously the highest ranked player not picked. He also was put into a near impossible position last year in the PBA League. He came in for an injured Sean Maldonado, had to fly cross country, drill a few balls, drill a thumb hole. It was a bit of a mess. He didn't have a very good performance, but I feel like maybe a fresh start with a new team and actually being there from the whole get-go when we have the qualification and everything, he would have had a much better performance. I've actually bowled in the PBA League with Jake quite a while ago on the New York City Kingpins. I enjoyed bowling with him, so I feel that Jake might have been one of the more overlooked players.
For sure.
Yeah, I think there are some guys you can overlook. Obviously, somebody like Matt McNeil, who really doesn't bowl very much. He ends up pretty high up in the points and qualified every year. I personally would rather have a guy who's bowling all the time rather than once. But you certainly, obviously, he'd be much higher in the points than he is if he's out here all the time. I think a guy like Matt Sanders, he struck a lot. As a matter of fact, he was the anchor man for the Hitman when they made the finals. There's some veteran guys like Schaefer, like Low Shedder. It could be overlooked a little bit, but I think the guy that I think has been overlooked so far, and actually in all three drafts, is Greg Ostrander. He gets it down there in a hurry, and it's got a lot on it, and he can play. He can play straight. He can hook it. Has not made shows yet, but in this kind of format, I think he is somebody in the 2-3 hole that could throw a lot of strikes for you.
I have one more question.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Who has the prettier game, Big Mike or Bill O'Neill?
Well, let's just put it on.
Definitely Bill O'Neill on that one.
Now you're just pandering to not get blocked.
No. I'm just being honest. That's what we do on Sweep the Rack. We're just honest. I call a spade a spade. Bill's game is a very technically sound, fundamentally sound game that I respect very much. I would never say that I have a better looking game than him. But listen, when I throw it pretty well. You could go check. I put out the video on Twitter. So if you want to take a look at the 215th, go follow my account and take a look.
Okay, Mike. Jim quickly is asking me what's the plan? LAX's backup plan if Belmore's unable to make the event. It's the replacements. Keanu Reeves coming in. We're gonna shock the world. We're gonna lose the world's best bowler, and we're gonna win the PBA League. We're gonna put one black eye on Belmore's career. Rob Pirached says he doesn't even have the prettiest game on the show.
Rob throws it really well. I'll say that.
I think Rob's getting confused with who's prettier and whose game is prettier.
No, Rob throws it pretty well. I'll say that. I'll be the first to say that. Yeah,
he's really good at leaving the 610 when he needs it. All right, fellas. Well, we appreciate you coming on. I think we did a pretty nice job. Of course, all of these drafts are bullshit until the real thing comes on next week. Everybody should tune into Flow. There it is, Sunday, May 17th, 7 p.m. Eastern, live on FloBowling. Any final words, Lucas?
Yeah, just be sure to tune in. Make a calendar note on your phone, whatever you got to do. Tell Siri to remind you, and tune in, watch the draft. It'll be exciting. It'll be for real. None of this nonsense that we're doing.
That's right.
One other thing, you've got the new two-handed documentary. The trailer went live last night or the night before?
Yeah, it went on last night, and you can find it on FloBowling, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It's on
Pretty
the
much
homepage
everywhere.
as well. It's everywhere. And then also had a couple of deleted scenes from the Simonson Leave It Behind documentary that are on FloBowling today, so you can check those out if you want to.
Right. Okay. No problem. Appreciate it, Lucas. Anything else, Chris?
No, I think that's about it. I guess, in the comments, feel free to vote and see who you think drafted the best team, and maybe whoever drafted the best team, maybe we'll have them back for maybe a final mock draft the day before the actual one next week.
I'm thinking that we might run a competition, Chris. I think we might have a fan mock draft. Everything will be off the rails then. Are you putting something up there, Mike?
I was just saying, come on, you know who drafted the best team. It's that Sweep the Rack, man. Come on. It's easy to see. Check the stats, son. Come on.
Wait. Check the I'll put the stats up later on the Facebook feed, guys, too.
Okay, yeah. If we'll link it in because I'm going to do I'm going to put a picture of this up and people can comment. So,
Stu, before we go, can Phil tell us where we can get one of those psychedelic jackets he has on?
I don't even remember where I got this one from, to be honest. It was somewhere on the road, so it was not purchased locally. So
Disappointing.
yeah. Well, I keep getting longer ties. Chris reminds me that since either I have to, shorten my length or lengthen my ties, it's a lot easier to just lengthen my ties.
Phil, talking from experience, if you lose a little weight,
Yeah.
you don't have to take as much of a detour on the way down, and then it
Right.
will feel longer.
Oh, I know. Like I said, I walked the Krispy Kreme today. I killed 2 birds at one stone. I'm happy.
Cliff Barnes has got a good suggestion as to where you got your jacket.
There is one in my collection that's actually from Goodwill. It's not this one though.
Oh, son.
Go back to the 70s.
That's just wrong.
All right.
Guys, thank you for having us. Thank you for having us and hosting us. You guys did an excellent job. I had a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yep, tons of fun, man.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, guys. Well, Sunday, Mother's Day special, 12 p.m. Central Time. Mrs. Barnzy and Mrs. Beef are going to host Kimberly Pressler. So the show is clearly going to be a lot more attractive to watch. And with that, I will leave it to my Hall of Fame colleague to give us the farewell.
Hey guys, thanks a lot for being on. This is certainly a entertaining group of expert analysis and analysts, and I appreciate you coming on and drafting with us today. Until next time, check out these guys' shows and their podcasts. A lot of entertainment out there. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy. God bless.